Isbell hits it into deep right center field. Varsho is all the way back, and it's a one-run game. Kyle Isbell hits his third of the year and drives in his second run tonight.
The Kansas City Royals traveled to the Big White North, and unfortunately they fell to the Toronto Blue Jays 6-5 in their Monday night series opener. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Royals Recap. My name is Jacob Milham. I am one half of the Royals Rundown podcast. If you are listening to us for the first time, first, thank you. And secondly, please go support the great work that is going on over at RoyalsReview.com. All the news, analysis, and commentary you need on all things Kansas City Royals. You can also follow them on X, Facebook, and Threads at Royals Review. But let's talk about tonight's loss. So this was a good game overall. It was a long game. It felt like it almost hit that 3-hour mark. Something that I have not gotten used to since the pitch clock shortened the games so much in what was that, just last year? Goodness. Just last year is when the pitch clock was implemented at the major league level. And I've gotten quite used to my 2.5 hour games, I will say. First pitch at 7:07 Eastern Standard Time, and I'm recording this right now at 10:15 p.m. So we're a little past my bedtime, folks. Come on now. The Royals opened up the series in front of a packed Rogers Center crowd, nearly 30,000 fans in attendance for a Monday night game. You could think a very good promotion for that, giving away a player jersey and it was a whole thing. It was basically you look like a player from his jersey to his eyewear. It would have been very popular. Imagine if the Royals were giving away, say, like a Pasquatch head or something like that at the gates. I think that would get some folks out on a Monday night. So Jonathan Bolin, he was making his 2024 debut tonight against the Blue Jays, coming up from the Omaha Storm Chasers. Jeremy and I talked about this on Sunday night's episode, looking forward to seeing what he had. He's doing pretty good in AAA Omaha right now, leading the team in ERA and just being a very productive starting pitcher overall. We saw him at the major league level last year as an opener, but outside of that one appearance, there wasn't much to go off of. So this was a very interesting opportunity for Bolin against the Blue Jays. He wasn't declared an opener. No. He was declared as the starter in place of Alec Marsh, who is on the injured list. And there's good and bad in Bolin start tonight. Let's go ahead and start off with the good. The fastball was great. I think it had some great life on it, and he was placing it very well. It had very, very good velocity. Saw him sitting at 97 at one point early on in the start. And it was inducing swings and misses. George Springer, the leadoff guy for the Toronto Blue Jays, he was having struggles against it, and he's been in the league for a minute. He's not just overpowering an inexperienced batter. He's getting past it, or he's getting that pitch past a World Series champion. So that was reassuring. Unfortunately, what caused Bolin a lot of trouble was the slider. He wasn't locating it very well at times, and it was just hanging up there for the Blue Jays to just batter it. And unfortunately, since that was not working so well, his other pitches were suffering. They were laying off the fastball as much. That Danny Jansen home run, his second of the year, was off of that four-seam fastball, and that was partially because it was going to be high up in the zone. Bolin didn't have another pitch to throw against him. The curveball was slightly erratic, I want to say. And the four-seam fastball, if it wasn't high or inside, then it was hittable. So if you squint and look at Jonathan Bolin tonight, you can see a single inning guy. You really can. There is some good stuff with the fastball. I do think that, let's say he went to a fastball and sinker guy. Okay, let's look at that. 2-pitch mix can usually get a reliever by in Major League Baseball. Maybe you have a third. His third would be the curveball, I think. He takes this experience. Maybe he makes one more start for Kansas City. I don't know if he's going to make another start. It really depends on where Alec Marsh is right now. But the chances of Bolin making one more start with Kansas City feel high. Let's say he doesn't. Let's say he goes back down to Omaha and he takes this experience, and I just hope he grows from it. I think that would be the real loss if he did not grow from this experience. If he just went back to AAA and expected those batters to swing at his slider so much. Okay, it's not a terrible pitch, but it got absolutely pummeled tonight. So let's look at why it got pummeled. And let's take a step back. Let's reevaluate, look at the positives, and improve on the negatives. That's all we can do with Jonathan Bolin. I get it. His age is outside of that prospect status. This isn't the guy that we were expecting, even 3 years ago at this point, lighten up as a Wilmington Blue Rocks pitcher back in 2019. The COVID year, Tommy John's really just set him back a long way. But something, or what's the saying? Later is better than never. All right, and we are getting Jonathan Bolin later on in his playing career. And even if he is just a single inning reliever out of the bullpen at some point this year or next year, I think that's okay. I would absolutely take that. And it's not like the other pitching behind him was shut out. Tyler Duffy, who I'm still kind of perplexed to why he is up in the Major League bullpen. He did all right tonight. Pitched 1 2/3 innings, only allowed 2 hits, but did allow 1 earned run with 2 strikeouts. Angel Serpa came in relief of him pitching, only getting 2 outs, but that's okay. No hits, no earned runs. He did his job for the night as deemed by manager Matt Quatraro. Matt Sauer, the former Rule 5 draft pick, is continuing to outperform expectations, I will say. This isn't a guy who came up through the system. This isn't a guy who, Royals fans have been following for years as a prospect. This is a guy who the Royals plucked from AA in the New York Yankees system and says, hey, you're debuting at the major league level with us. Sink or swim guy. And he went out there tonight, pitched 2 innings, allowed 2 hits, 1 earned run, and did walk a guy and struck out a guy. But his ERA is currently sitting at 2.38. So overall, he is still looking strong in my book. He was staying in the zone for the most part. 37 pitches tonight, 24 of them for strikes. So there's a lot of good building blocks there. And I think this 1 or 2 inning role for Sauer is going to spell success for him in 2024. Nick Anderson came on in the bottom of the 8th to pitch that inning, 2 hits allowed with 2 strikeouts. He is continuing to rebound from a poor showing against the Baltimore Orioles. That's been skewing his numbers for the most part, but he is looking better, I would say. Overall, the pitching staff, 6 earned runs allowed with 12 hits, 4 walks to 8 Ks. The real killer, though, those 3 home runs from Bolin. All right, 2 2/3 innings, allowing 3 home runs with 3 walks in that span. Yeah, that's not going to get it done. So that really spelled doom for the Kansas City Royals. But let's go to the lineup, because there are some good and bad things to take from this. Michael Garcia seems to be coming out of his slump. I will say he had 2 hits tonight in 5 ABs, and he got on. He gave the Royals a chance in the top of the 9th. Getting that leadoff runner on was very, very valuable, I will say. Or excuse me, let me double check. But yeah, he singled on a line drive on a 2-0 pitch, no outs, and he's on first base for Bobby Witt Jr. This is, I'm not a manager. I'm just sitting here at home watching the game. But I don't understand why they weren't sending Bobby Witt Jr. earlier on in the Vinny Pasquantino plate appearance. I really don't. You have top of the ninth. Bobby gets on after grounding into a force out, so they throw out Michael Garcia at second, sitting there with one out, a runner on first, and it's Bobby Witt Jr. This is a guy who has elite speed. Elite doesn't do it justice, and some of the best in baseball. And you have a subpar catcher behind the plate for Toronto at throwing out runners. Why aren't you sending Bobby Witt Jr., getting him over to second? So even if Vinny, flies out to right field on a deep ball, he's at least advancing that runner over to third. It just makes too much sense to me in that instance. And it showed up later on. So Vinny, he flew out to Dalton Varsho, gave him 2 outs. Bobby's still standing on first. Salvador Perez, he came in and did what you want your team captain to do. Not a healthy scratch, scratched earlier on from the lineup due to some back tightness, came in as a pinch hitter when the team needed him the most, and he singled on a line drive to left field, moving Bobby over to third. So think about that. Even if Bobby had just stolen second when Vinny was at the plate, he would have scored if Salvi still came in and hit that single, and we would have a tie ball game. But instead, you have runners on the corners with 2 outs with Michael Massey coming up to the plate. All right, and at this point, Kansas City, they have a 15.9% chance of winning, according to MLB.com. It's not great, but it's better than what it was before Salvi singled. I can only imagine how much better it would be if they had been able to tie the ball game with Bobby Witt Jr. And unfortunately, Michael Massey comes to the plate and he strikes out swinging. He had a decent plate appearance. Dairon Blanco was getting his workout in. He was pinch running for Perez, and I think Massey fouled off 4 or 5 balls, and Blanco was running on every single one of them. So it seemed a little bit too late for Quatraro to try and be aggressive on the base pass. Bobby did have another stolen base tonight, his 9th on the year, so congratulations to him. But I really would have rather seen that stolen base come in the top of the 9th, moving him over to second base for Salvador Perez to score that game-tying RBI. So that's my armchair take. I will say the final from Toronto is 6-5 Toronto Blue Jays. We do have more games up in Toronto, so it is not the absolute end of the world. Coming up on the other side of the ad break, we'll see who Bally wrangles up after tonight's loss, so stay tuned.
Just struggled getting the pitches where he needed to with 2 strikes. Most of the damage was when he was ahead in the count. But he threw the ball, well. It looked like he wasn't guiding the ball or anything like that. It just didn't execute as well as he should have or wanted to with 2 strikes.
It looked like he was hitting, upper 90s, a couple 98s up there. What do you like about that? And it just got a little bit harder than he's thrown in the past.
Yeah, I'm sure he was amped up a little bit. But we know that he can throw hard. We know he's got good stuff, and that's what I mean. Like, he didn't aim the ball. Like, he wasn't losing his feel out there or anything like that. It was just a matter of execution.
And with Salvi being scratched earlier today, to get Hums in the 9th and gets a pinch hit right there, just how big is that just for him to be ready? And was it something where he just couldn't go in the field?
Well, he's always ready. We know that. I mean, he wants to play all the time. His back tightened up a little bit earlier in the day, but he worked on it throughout the game, and he said he was 100% there at the end.
Anything happened to have it tighten up, or?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just one of those, maybe the travel. I'm not exactly sure. I'll talk to KT about it after.
Obviously, putting him in, all precautionary reasons, and to scratch him, right? He's good to go.
Yeah, he waited until towards the end and tried to loosen up, and then he was honest. He said, I feel great.
With the homers, specifically that second home run from Turner, that was a pitch up and in. I mean, it seems like that was maybe a tip your cap situation.
Turner's a good hitter. He's hit a lot of home runs in his career, and you can see he can stay on breaking balls. He can get to fastballs. So I didn't go back and look at the exact location, but sometimes you get beat.
Were there a couple of spots you felt like the offense kind of left a couple of runs out there?
We had the first and third situation we didn't capitalize on, but they had tough matchups for guys, at the right time.
Top of the Blue Jays lineup coming up in the sixth lead to maybe the Zerpa out and Sauer coming in.
Yeah, and plus, Zerpa, we have to consider, too, you come in a situation like that, super high leverage, he does his job, there's a lot of emotion to that, and then going back out there sometimes is tough, too, the next inning. But we also want to keep him as available as possible, and Sauer needs to get out there in some of those situations, too.
You talked about the matchups in this bullpen on a night that you're not seeing either Romano or Garcia, the fact that you got Pearson there in the ninth. What's the depth like on that the other side that you're kind of dealing with there with that Blue Jays crew?
Yeah, they have a great bullpen. We talked about it last week when we played them. They have multiple lefties. They can match up different times during the game. They have power arms throughout. Pearson's not a bad option throwing 100 miles an hour coming in the ninth inning.
Alrighty, y'all, let's get to some Spotify Q&A responses. So if you don't know, you can listen to us on Spotify, where you can interact with us on our exclusive polls and Q&As over on that platform. And after each game, or after each episode, I will read your responses in the following episode. So since we didn't do a Royals recap last night, since Jeremy and I were on for the full-length episode, let's go ahead and look back at April 27th. Fistifer 1775 says, when we lose, I get so mad that I want to roar, but then I take a deep breath and count to 4. That sounds like something that I probably should have learned in preschool, or I might have and just forgot it. And then Ginger 620 says, even HDH coughed up some leads back in the day. Stratton wasn't good, but I trust he'll be fine next time. I was fairly frustrated with Chris Stratton after Saturday night's game. So such is life. Well, we'll see how it goes. Nick Anderson looked just fine tonight. I hope that we see Chris Stratton in some form or fashion on Tuesday night against the Toronto Blue Jays. Speaking of Tuesday night against the Toronto Blue Jays, we're back to the top of the Royals rotation. It should be a very, very good game for the one and only Cole Ragans against the Toronto Blue Jays. He'll be facing off against Jose Berrios of the Blue Jays. Let's see here. First pitch is at 6:07 Kauffman Standard Time. You can follow along to the game on Valley Sports Kansas City or 610 Sports Radio or on any one of the MLB apps. So let's the Royals they're sliding right now. All right, sitting on a 3-game losing streak right now, so that is hardly ideal. 17-13, still a winning record. Let's go ahead and bounce back against the Blue Jays behind the lefty Ragans. Once again, my name is Jacob Milham. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight's Royals recap, and until next time, go Royals!